we're going to get all the black business owners together, have them come meet, because maybe they don't know each other. And most people in their cities don't know how many black-owned businesses are there or not there. Just to see what is the inventory. This one owns this owns this, this owns that. So that they can then say, we're going to work together towards this objective. Because if they can get a grant from the Treasury, then why wouldn't you support it, right? Okay. All right, so the finger strategy, as part of that, one of the other things after you do the networking event is to have a study group. Because everybody has different interests. So some people want to study, they want to learn more about history. If you look at anything that the youth are doing currently, they're out and they will say, my name is Patah so-and-so, my name is Offset, whatever. If you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Yes. All right, so a lot of younger people are learning about ancient Kemet, ancient African history, or they're learning about Yoruba, or they're learning about the Afrikan, or they're learning about all of these different ancient groups that they didn't learn about in school. And they're identifying with them because they see that as their culture and their ancestors. So when they do that, they may change their name or do something trendy, wear black and green, or you'll see the Eye of Heru, or you'll see an Ankh. You may have seen that. What they're actually doing is learning this. They're learning about history that they haven't been taught in school. I am from a long line of revolutionaries. My mother was a Black Panther. My grandfather was part of Marcus Garvey's UNIA. I'm raised in this. I studied under Sister Marjorie Jacob out of Atlantic City, who studied under Dr. Clark, who's one of our most preeminent scholars and professors. So, who's now deceased, Ibaya Ashe. So I've been studying this for long periods of time. I've taught metaphysics. I am a survival guide. I was in the Marines for 8 years, a captain, so I learned a lot of survival techniques, so I teach the survivor class as well. So I'm coming out here just to pretty much share with Elena so we can get this jump started so people can continue. How you doing, sir? What's your name? Dan. How you doing, Dan? Thank you. All right, everybody got the link? Now, AAES stands for AAES, the All African Empowerment Society. That is the sponsor for everything that's happening right now. So it's all under this one organization. The All African Empowerment Society was created in New Jersey in 2012 in Camden, New Jersey, by some rich individuals who basically decided that it was better for them to create an entity that would be able to brainstorm these type of ideas, come back to them and say, well, how much money do you need? And then whatever it meant to get it off the ground, they would contribute that money. And what you see right now is the result of their investment.
Now, my question that I have pertaining to the banking, would it be, would you divide?
For the Treasury?
Yeah, for the Treasury. Would we have some of those funds here in the States, or would we have like banking?
It'd be one collective fund, and the way it would work is there are multiple processes in which we're going to. The first thing is going to be business. All right, so businesses will be able to apply for a grant. There'll be a section of the fund that will go towards investment. And I don't want you to key me into these details because when the prospectus comes out, that's going to give everyone all of the information, but I'm giving you a broad scope of what I know it's supposed to do. Additionally, it's going to have any organizations and agencies and institutions that are already in place, subsidize those. And then on the social services side, we actually want to be able to help families directly. So you may get food stamps or you may get this, or that. It's one thing for the government to give you something or the state to give you something, because then you have a lot of these people who are in dire situations who then begin to look at the state as though this is responsible for them. We should be responsible for our own. So if we're able to give a young mother who may have had a child out of wedlock, she has 2 children, whatever, she might get that, she can continue to get that check, but then we can get that money as well and then say, here, it's coming from us. So it changes who's offering that money, and it changes the whole feel about it. Because then we actually care about what's going on, and we say, what do you need? What services do you need to actually get you out of this state? Because we don't want you to stay dependent. And we also don't want to take you and lift you up just enough and then throw you to the wolves.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, so the way the study group works, we cover all of history. We start at creation, which is tonight's class, origin theory. By creation, we don't tell you this is how the world came into being. We give you what different cultures from our history thought. Because, have you ever heard of the Ife people, other than what you guys saw on the screen?
No.
Okay, so the Ife people are people of Nigeria. They have their own cultural belief systems long before white people even were something that they knew existed. And they wrote some of this stuff down and they passed it down in terms of their oral history. So people have collected this information, presented this to us so we can learn it. And you'll see how they actually thought. As opposed to, well, no one thought anything in Africa before white people came and then they introduced us to Christianity. I'm not saying anything bad about Christianity, but before that, that's basically saying, so what did we do? We ran around with no clothes, scratched our butt, and jumped around. But people actually believe these type of things. People actually believe that black people didn't do anything, and you'll find that as we go through this history, there's almost nothing that we didn't introduce to the whole planet.
Exactly.
So that everything, including the architecture for the building that we're in, including the understanding of the electrical system, all of this actually comes from sciences that we laid the foundation for and other people have taken from us. So we break it down into 4 sessions. Each session is a quarter, so every 3 months we're covering a different period of history. First we start off with the origin theory and ancient civilizations, and we go all the way to 1 BC. Now, you may not realize, but we actually start at 250,000 years BC. We have a different way of looking at the calendar than what the Western world actually looks at the calendar for right now. We are actually in the 11th great cycle or great year, something that we'll learn about later on. A great year is basically 26,000 years of history. So we have been, as a people, have been recording history enough to know that there's one cycle is 26,000 years, and we kept the record. And then another 26,000 years, and then again, and so on and so forth. The closest that they will come to teaching you that we had this knowledge is to say the Mayan calendar. So the South Americans were able to do this, but you'll find that a lot of the native culture of South America is a mirror of what ancient Kemet was. And we know that the people in ancient Kemet were there longer and much farther back in history than those in South America. And then you'll also learn that the original people that were in the Americas weren't the quote-unquote Mongoloid or Asian-looking Native Americans. They were Africoid people similar to the ones in Australia and Melanesia in the Pacific. And you'll learn that also the first people to actually be seafaring people were us. But they won't tell you that, they won't teach you that. We're not sure about that, is what they'll say. We have to be able to look at history from our perspective, and that's really what this class is about. The African worldview, the corporate African worldview. Not one particular tribe or group, but the entire African worldview from many different angles. All right, my name is Juel. Pretty much everything that I talked to you about as far as who I am, what Mrs. Lena Porter is in the organization, as well as taking the pledge. Apart from everything else that we're going to do tonight, or talk about tonight, it's for naught if you don't take the pledge. So we can please take the pledge. All right, orientation. What's orientation mean? And the way I do this class is not me talk to you, you listen. It's me talk to you, ask questions, you ask me questions, we go back and forth. This is a village setting, this is a fire right here, and we're sitting around the fire with the elders, and we're discussing things. So when I say orientation, what does that mean? Anybody?
Learning something new too.
So you?
Learning something new too.
Learning something new? Anyone else?
Engaging in dialogue.
Anyone else?
Feeling your way around.
Close, then I'll get you. Come on. So let's do a little bit of orientation. So work with me for a second. All right. Where did you come in? Okay. So we're going to orient him towards the entrance. So we'll say that the entrance is the beginning. What's behind you? If this is the beginning, the end, which is also the future. Okay. All right, thank you. Orientation, when I say orientation in the context of what we're studying, is most people begin to study Black history or African history when? When did our history begin, according to Western or American thought?
Slavery.
Slavery.
From 1492 to present. That's in the history books, in the curriculum.
So when our children go to school, and our grandchildren go to school, and they sit in class, and they want to know about them, because they're innocent, right? They don't know. They want to learn about themselves. They hear all this other stuff, so what about us? Oh, well, you guys were here, and slavery began and such and such. No, but I mean, like, what before that? Well, that was just African. You guys didn't do anything. It's not important. This is when it started, and look at all the wonderful things you did when you got out of slavery. So basically, if their spirits were like this, they go like this. And then this begins the process of changing how we view ourselves into looking at ourselves as being inferior. So we say, well, what is happening to our children? What's happening to your children is that they're being warred on psychologically in the very institutions that we finance by the people that we trust. And how are you doing? Oh, yeah, they had a great day today. She didn't talk in class, but I think we need to work on this. But in their minds, they're not doing anything harmful. They're teaching the curriculum that the city, the county, the state, the federal government said this is what you teach them. Now, in Atlanta, we have some people who are in class from South Africa, and they tell us up until maybe 20 years ago, they had separate educational system. And they had a type of educational system for the Bantu and a different one for the white people. So if you were Bantu, you had to be taught, and all you need to learn how to do is manual skills. You don't need to know anything else about any other history. You're in your country now. And once you've been in that country for more than 20, 30,000 years, but you did nothing until we got here, and we're superior to you. And this is basically what they were teaching to their children in the schools. So that she'll say her grandmother, when her grandmother may walk, and some whites may be walking past, you know you need to move, you see them coming, right? And let them pass, and then walk. Now, that's not going to happen with our generation or the generation after us. But it's shameful that our beloved elders were put into that situation. And then today to be looked at and say, well, that happened so many years ago. Get over it. We can learn to live in harmony. If you understand history, you understand that in this country, after enslavement, black people were doing quite a bit. We got into the Congress, we got into the state houses, et cetera, et cetera. We were doing quite a few things, and we had businesses. Not everybody, but enough of us, so that we started to run. So if you are in the business of holding people back, stepping on people's necks, and pulling their own wealth from them, you think you're going to, once they get free, you're going to let them run past you? No. So as soon as it looks like that, we got to do something. So the North and the South decided we're going to have some sort of reconciliation. And part of that reconciliation was, we'll do business with each other. You stay out of our business when it comes to dealing with the black folk in the South. That's our business. And the second that happened, all of the Dixies started coming up. All of the rebels started saying, all you carpetbaggers and whatever, and then you couldn't be out past dark. You can't be on the right side of the road. So on and so forth, and they started the criminalization of our culture, and they pulled us right back down. One of the movies that came out during that period of time, Birth of a Nation. You guys know what that is? What's Birth of a Nation? Birth of a Nation is a film. Right now you have the film of Nat Turner, and they've used the same title, Birth of a Nation. But the original Birth of a Nation is the origin of the Ku Klux Klan. And they called it Birth of a Nation. And it was the birth of the new era of white supremacy in the United States.
That's a movie? Yes.
It's a movie. It's one of the first movies. It's in black and white. And they use that to scare pretty much every white person in this country into saying that we need to get control of niggers immediately.
Well, they did that to the Bible, right?
Well, they did that through a number of different, they did it through everything. They did it through everything. So pretty much, if it was a toy that was made, the toy, if you had a white dial and a black dial, then the white dial looked all nice and pretty, and the black dial, if you even had one, looked like charcoal. And that's, so as long as you realize that this is the polarity, and this will be something that is a continual theme, it doesn't matter what you teach. As long as I do this, and this is what the slave owner used to do, you're lighter.
Yep.
So you're gonna come in the house.
Yeah.
You're gonna come in the house.
Yeah.
Right? So you're gonna be in the house. Now before that, there's no discord. We don't have any problem about any complexion or anything like that. It's divide and conquer. Right? So likewise, he's an older gentleman, he's respected. So all right, I'm gonna befriend him. All right, I'm gonna treat him a little bit better. So he can come, you want to turn my bed down at night. You get an extra piece of chicken and so on and so forth. So when y'all start talking about stuff, about how y'all gonna do this, this, and that,
You can come
you
to.
make sure you come tell me if you start talking about some of that stuff. And if he don't want to get whipped any further or anything like that, because he lived his whole life in the field. He got moved. He'd be safe now. He might tell. You understand? And then it might be the wife or the mama or the daughter, because she don't want her sons to die. And she knows if they get into this thing, they probably ain't gonna win in the first place. So no, you stay home or you don't do that. Da, da, da. Or master, I didn't mean to, but I had to tell you, thinking that maybe she's doing what's right. The outcome you all know from just stories that have been passed down in our families. This has not changed. It's just changed form. It still takes place in corporate America. It takes place in education. It takes place in politics. Perfect example. Some people, I'm not sure if you guys are for Hillary Clinton or whatever, but she basically went on one of the radio shows, and on the radio shows, she cooned, right? So this is what she did. Well, do you listen? It was a hip hop radio. So you listen to music, you listen to R&B and so on and so forth. She said, yeah. Actually, I always have some hot sauce in my bag wherever I go.
That's it.
And it was so stomach turning to the point that all she's doing is pressing buttons. It doesn't matter if you get it, you get it, you get it, and you get it. Somebody did. It ain't like, see, she's down, and that's a vote. Because she doesn't need all of our votes. She only needs 15%.
I'll be at the next meeting.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
I've enjoyed it.
All right, thank you for coming. So we'll move past orientation. What's different about this map?
Africa is upside down.
Really?
Yes.
Anything else?
Let's take a look at Europe. I don't even see Europe. Where's Europe? Where is Europe? Because Africa is generally smaller. I don't see Europe. Where is Europe? Oh, I'm behind. Where is Europe?
It's like the whole world's upside down.
Okay.
Let's do this.
I remember they had a movie where they were showing it, that when they teach us the map, they have it upside down, have portions of it missing. To make Europe look different than Africa.
Where is Europe?
Yeah.
Where is
A little cluster.
Here's Europe.
Oh yeah, it is.
Wow. Man. That's Europe. That's Europe?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. And this is a true map of the world.
This is a true map of the world. But there's one difference about it that you pointed out, but I think you stated it wrong. What you about to say? You got a question?
I was gonna ask you, so in reality, we don't have 7 continents then, right? So isn't Europe like a part of the continent of Asia?
It's really subjective, right? So this is all one landmass. So what they do is they want to separate this from them so that they make themselves, everything is subjective, right? So if I basically say that I'm not part of humanity, no, obviously I am, but as long as if I get you to believe I'm not part of humanity, then therefore must be something else. But what am I? I'm superior. So as long as I get you to believe it, guess what I am? Superior. You know, an elephant can be chained with a little rope and a little peg. An elephant can knock this building down if it had to. But it's going to think that it can't move this because it's been conditioned to believe that. So it doesn't matter what's actual and what's true. It matters who's in power, and then they tell you what's actual and true. But if you look at this, you can come to your own conclusion that this is all one landmass, and it's all Asia. So they'll say, oh, we'll call it, well, this is Western Asia. Okay? It's still just Asia. Or it's Eurasia. The whole myth and the idea of Europe began with a myth of Zeus. All right? And Zeus being the Greek god of the fatherhood, meaning the God of all other gods, the Almighty over all almighties, who came down into a field as a white bull, and then he was Europa, and he raped Europa, the daughter of one of the kings, and therefore this became Europe. That's their story, that's where they grab it from, that's what they pull it off of. And it's part of their myth, their mythology, and their mythology to them is sacred, and everybody else's mythology is fantasy. Okay. Any reason that you guys, so where's north at? Okay, north is perfect. North is at the bottom. Where's south? At the top. Where's the east? To the left. And west is to the right. Now, which way does the world turn?
Counterclockwise, right?
In relation to this map right here, if I had to turn this, which way am I turning it? Am I going this way? Am I going this?
Going right. Yeah.
So I'm going like this.
On the X.
I think
So
it's-
where's the,
Where-
where's the sun rise? This is the east, right?
Yeah.
And the sun goes this way, right? Now, is the sun actually moving, or is the earth actually moving? So if I needed the sun to go like this, then which way would the earth have to turn? Because if the sun's going that way, then the earth is going that way. So this is turning like this, okay? The right to left, the sun is moving the opposite direction because the sun is stationary in comparison to the movement of the earth. All right, so you said that the north is at the bottom. Why do our maps show the north at the top? Psychologically, what's the point that they're trying to make?
They're on the top.
Everything was valuable was up at the top.
Everything is valuable, well, everything at the top is valuable, but, so therefore they place themselves at the top. So when you look at the map, you flip this, what's at the center when you flip this?
Europe.
Europe. Europe becomes dead center when I flip this map. And then it's center mass. Now when I do it south, what's at the center now?
Still pretty much at the center. North Africa. Yeah.
Okay? The reason why the maps point to the north as being the top, there's an actual reason in terms of the scholars who made the maps and when Europe decided, because maps previously, south was at the top. And I'm going to tell you why. All right. We don't use these as just some terminology. The word Nile is a Greek word. We don't use that word. The real word for the river is the Hapi, H-A-P-I. Africa, we don't spell it with a C, we spell it with a K. We do it that way to recognize that we are part of the struggle for freedom for our people and liberation. So people who spell Africa with a K, you can pretty much assume that they're part of whatever it means to be free. So they're revolutionary. People who spell it with a C, they're usually academic. So they're spelling it the way Europeans spell it, and that's how they chose to do it. We spell it with a K, so that's a recognition factor. Or we use the word Kush, and you'll learn over time exactly what Kush comes to represent. There's two tributary, meaning two rivers that lead into the Hapi River. They call it the Blue Nile. They call it the Blue Nile because there's one word in the Sudanese language that they're using that means blue and black. So they chose blue over black. Any reason why you think they did that? Because blue was preferable than calling it the Black Nile. Because to say the Black Nile is also referring to the people. So we don't want to do any of that. So we'll say the Blue Nile. And the other tributary is the White Nile. Now, they call it the White Nile because when it passes a particular river or particular lake, I think it's Lake Owen, it's going to be on the next slide. I don't remember by memory. But when it passes that particular lake, that particular area, the soot, the dirt that comes from the ground that gets into the river makes it a beige color. No different than if you throw mud into the water. You know, and if it's a clayish mud, then it turns into basically a beige color, a brownish color. Well, they chose to call that white because in comparison to the Black Nile, it's lighter in complexion. Now, it's probably closer to your complexion than it is actually white. But that's enough for them to say white now. So we call that the brown hapi. So we say the black hapi and the brown hapi. All right, this is the longest river on earth. Longest river on earth. This is significant. Very significant. Can anybody give me another factor that is significant about what that means if this is the longest river? This river is longer than going from one end of the United States to the other. We still got more.
I think what it means is it was life. Because that
Excellent.
water, you had to have life in that water.
Right.
Vegetation.
So the oldest skeletons of humanity or human-like creatures are found where?
Africa.
But all around this area here, and this area here is the beginning of the Nile, the beginning of the Hapi. Now there's a whole lot more that you guys are going to learn if you continue to come to the classes, and you'll see how this shapes up. But basically, this is the beginning of, if there is a place where humanity began, is it?
I mean, it had to be.
All right? And here's the significant reason why we place the north at the bottom and the south at the top. If you grew up here, not knowing any of the things that we know about the world today, you just know that you started here. When you pour water, water goes down, right? All right, so things that are down, you go down at them. So if you're going to make a map of where you're from, the top part is going to be where you know things are higher. And then the bottom part is going to be where you know things are lower. So your frame of reference is, this river doesn't go from the north to the south. This river starts in the south and flows downward to the north. So your frame of reference on earth is, down is which way the river goes. It's going down that way. So that's down. That's north. That's up. That's south. You understand?
So basically, our train of thought has just been manipulated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been manipulated to dominate you.
Yes.
To dominate you psychologically, to dominate you emotionally, to dominate you mentally and on every capacity. So to make you feel that it doesn't, it has to be reiterated over and over and over and over again. So that there's no space. So that's why whenever we do one thing against this power structure, it becomes petty. Doesn't matter. We're not going to give an inch. Nothing. Oh, well, I think it's not. It's horrible. It's dirt. It's whatever it is to make you stay in your place.
Exactly.
And it begins in the home based upon what's been done previous generations, but the foundation is laid when you get to school. All right, so this is a picture of the same thing. So it's going through all of these countries: Tanzania, Burundi, Zaire, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, Sudan. That's the capital of the northern Sudan is Khartoum, Kemet. Now we don't say Egypt, we say Kemet. The brown hapi originates in the Great Lake region of Lake Juel. Now that lake that you see right there, they have the audacity to call that Lake Victoria, after Queen Victoria of England. We don't call it that, we call it Juel. As far as south as southern Rwanda, which is Burundi, it gets its brown beige color around Lake No in southern Sudan. So here, the beginning of the beige or the brown hapi is around this area. It continues going all the way back towards the lake and then continues to go down towards Cairo. While the black hapi originates from Lake Tana in the current day nation of Ethiopia. So that would be this area here. So there's people living all along this, civilizations, life, everything. When we get to what we call Kemet, which they focus on here, everything starts up here. And everybody came this way. But they would have you believe that civilization is pretty much just this. This would not exist if it wasn't for all of that. And it doesn't mean just the water, it means also the people. You'll find that over time that all of the people that you come to recognize as being ancient Egyptian quote-unquote pharaohs or Egyptian people began in the south. And they were part of another kingdom called Kush. And it didn't just stop with this particular nation. It was nations here, 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 all the way over, as far as Australia. The area we know as the Sahara was not a desert. The area of West Africa was populated, and we traveled on the Atlantic as well. None of these things will you learn in school, in any of the textbooks, and if they presented them to anyone at this point, it's questionable is how they present it, so it's not necessarily that we know this to be true. Okay, origin theory. Now, what you're about to get now is different perspectives on the creation of humanity and the creation of the universe. What you're going to find about African people, there's always going to be more than one version of what was created. Now, even biblically, how they point out what was created, we start with, so tell me about the creation from the Bible. Does everybody know that story?
Thank you.
Who wants to start with? What do we start with the creation? The creation begins with what?
Genesis.
But what does it begin with? How you doing,
In the
sister?
beginning.
I'm good, how are you?
All right, what's your name?
Dana.
Dana, welcome. Good to see you. I'm LaQuay. Okay, so what did we begin with first?
Adam and Eve in the beginning.
Nope.
God's word.
And the word was.
In the beginning was the Word,
And the word was
God.
God.
and the
Word
Word
was
was.
with God.
Okay. So in the beginning was the Word. Now, the African way of looking at that is the same, but they say it differently. And they don't start off with just that. Now, if I say to that mindset that you guys just said, where did God come from?
Right.
What was before God, or was anything before God?
Is it true?
So where did it come from?
Always existed, at least as far as we're concerned.
So the Africans broke this down, the Kemetic, the Cushitic people broke this down even further. They weren't satisfied with just saying that. They needed to understand, because if I tell you a story and I say, well, that's all it is to it, and you don't question it any further, then that's all it is to it. If I question it further, then we'll go further into it. So you'll find that the African version of creation starts with the creation of the Creator. It doesn't change what he just said. It's just the Creator gives an account of his origin. Hello. And I'll read that to you. Demonte. Daquan. What's your name? Say Don. How you doing? And your name is? Demetrius. Well, your name is? DeBron. Okay. And your name is? Dan? Come on, sir. How you doing, sir? Welcome to class. And your name is? Tawana. Welcome. All right, that's great. Okay, thank you. All right. Now, it's good that we're learning this, but let me make a very big point here. The very reason why we're learning all of this is about them. The most important people in the African worldview is the children. And this was something that we'll get into other classes. Who's the most important people in the room? Say, we are.
We are.
Who's the most important people in the room?
We are.
Who's the most important people in the family?
We are.
That's right. Everything that your parents are doing, guess who it's for? You. That's right.
That's right.
Okay. So, in our society, in our way of looking at life, the whole purpose of the family is for the next generation. So after you have that first child, mother and father, the whole point is the creation of family. And you're going to see this in all of the stories of creation that African people have to present. Now, you're going to see other stories where some smaller tribes, and I'll explain why their versions of it seem a certain type of way. But the point that I want you to get is that Trinity in Africa. What's the African Trinity? Does anybody know? What's the Christian Trinity?
Oh, you said African Trinity, man, woman, child.
Man, woman, and child. What's the first, what's at the top of that?
At the top of the Trinity,
Yeah.
I think it's the woman.
Nope,
I guess it's the child.
it's the child. What's next?
Woman. Then the woman.
Somebody said something?
The elder.
The mother, and then the father. Now, above mother and father, but after child is elder. So in the center of that trinity, which would be like that fourth point, pinnacle of that pyramid, is the elder, which is the ancestors and those people who came before. But it's just a repetitive process. So I'm going to go into the book of creation. This comes from a book called The Hosea. Have anyone heard of Maulana Karanga? Yes, no. Anybody heard of Kwanzaa? Okay. Maulana Karenga created Kwanzaa. He is responsible for it. He came up with the whole ceremony, the whole holiday, and created that for our people. He's also written a book where he's done the translation on some of the, like all of these scripts here, these are over 4,000 years old. These are older than pretty much every known text that you would know about. These are from the temples in Kemet, different various temples that have been collected, and Maulana Karenga put it in a book called the Hosea. It's spelled Husia. Now, as far as the study group is concerned, for those of you who came later, I'll give you the link again. It's the AAEsociety.org/library. This is a library that we accumulate various materials. We place it in the library for you to be able to download, read as part of the class so that you can learn on your own and look at videos and so forth. This is in it. So you can go there and find exactly what I'm saying and double check. Another book that's in there will be anything that's in there by Sheikh Anta Diop. Sheikh Anta Diop is a Senegalese, which is a West African nation, a Senegalese scholar who is a trained Egyptologist that challenged the white Egyptologists, what we call Yoruba people, but the Yoruba Egyptologists to basically state that all the things that you're saying about ancient Egypt are wrong. These are African people, and I can prove it to you, and he did so. So his books are there as well, and I'll pull it up on the screen before class is over. But let's read this together. The Book of Knowing the Creations. Ra's description of his creation. Thus said Ra, the Lord of all, Lord of the utmost limits, after he had come into being, I am the one who came into being as Keper, which means the creator. He who comes into being and brings into being. When I came into being, being itself came into being. So I'm going to stop right there. So remember I said, where did the creator come from? Where did God come from? This is an African version. What did you get from it? Somebody try and interpret it.
It's the first origin.
He's the first origin, but what are they saying different than he just came, he just existed? They're saying that when I came into being, the idea of existence itself came into being. Meaning before me, nothing existed, because there was no concept of existence. There was only me. I created myself. So in the Bible it says, I am the great I am. So what is your name? I just am, I am. Does this disagree with that? Or does this back that up?
It's like a different way of saying.
Yeah.
So it backs it up. It backs it up. See, these are our scriptures that predate the Bible, that validate the same thought process. So although we may be learning various things about our world that have been covered in white supremacy, we can't be so quick to throw out the baby with the bathwater, because what they did was take our things and put their mark on it, put their name on it, change it to suit their purposes. And we don't want any of those purposes, correct? But that doesn't mean that the truth of it is false. It just means that we have to learn where it came from. So I'll keep going a little bit. Many were the beings that came forth from the commands of my mouth. So the Bible tells you that the world, the universe, humanity, everything that was created by what? And this tells you that it came forth by, now it says Ra created things by the commands of his mouth. That's the word, right? Now they have a different way of saying it. They're not just saying that it came into it in terms of just the word. You guys ever seen the hieroglyphics? You guys know that word, the hieroglyphics?
Not heard of it.
You've never seen the hieroglyphics?